So recently I came across a video by Charlie Morgan talking about how to get out of like a rut in these like little cycles that we are in, these low versions of ourselves and this high version of ourselves. For example, I'll show you. So pretty much what you see here, right, is the top here is the highest that we'll go, right, before we fall down. And this is the ruts that we're in. We usually end up down here when we're in self-improvement. Like a lot of times when you start self-improvement, it gets a little bit lonely. You might get a little discouraged. Like you're barely making any progress. Like you're going through the motions. Like you're trying to change yourself totally. And with that comes a lot of like force and a lot of just like a lot of negativity. It's like you're like kind of walking through mud in the beginning. And so a lot of people, they end up in these ruts. And even me still, like I have times when I'm in a rut, when I don't feel like doing much. Like my emotions are down, like it's just negativity. I'm not making much progress. Like we all have these types of moments in our lives. But my theory about this, right, is I kept thinking about this, and bear with me because I'm going to be thinking through this theory of mine as this video is going on. And so we have this nice little depiction of what ruts are, right? We climb the thing, like we're feeling good, we're motivated, right? And then right here is like the peak. This is like where we got the progress that we wanted. But after the fact, we get a little bit comfortable with the progress, and then we start falling down into this little rut. And then this rut is the worst possible spot that you can be in, because this is the spot where like you kind of just like, what happened? Where did it all go? All my energy, it all just like went down. And like recently, like, I was in one of these like little ruts. I was just like thinking like, how do people get out of this? Like, because it really is difficult. Like especially when you're by yourself and no one really understands. So you get people that just like they stay in this rut for like the longest time. You've heard of yin and yang, like the cycles, like, and you've also heard of like what must come up must come down. So pretty much these cycles that we're in, this up and down cycles, that's a part of life, and we can't really escape them. That's why in this video, what I'm going to do is give my theory on why being in a rut is good and why reaching your peak is good, because these cycles, right, are important. They're so important. They're good. They're both good. Being in a rut is good, and being at your peak is good. So pretty much like what people really wish for nowadays is this. For example, when people think of success, when they think of retiring, when they think of the end of their life, they think it's going to be like this. They're going to think like, okay, I'm going to work, and then my life is just going to be like this, right? It's just going to be it's going to be peace, happiness, and you're just going to stay in this little cycle of just, everything's going to be all right, right? It's going to be fine. Once I retire, once I'm done making all this money, I'm just going to be happy. I'm going to be free. I'm just going to be peaceful all my life. And I think that's fucking bullshit. And I'll tell you why. Because, like I said, these cycles that we're in, the ruts, getting into the ruts, and then reaching our peak, those things are good for us. And I'll tell you why. Because now I have to redraw it again. So when we get into these little divots of ups and downs, these peaks and these low versions, what you don't realize is what you look at the up and then you look at the down, but what you don't realize is that we're moving forward. Right? We're going forward regardless of what we're doing here. And so my theory with this, right, is to not only why it's a good thing to be in a rut is because there's something that you're missing. There's something that you need to learn to get out of there. And what I'm pretty much saying is that this rut that you're in doesn't have to be all negative. It doesn't have to be like sluggish. It doesn't have to be like you're feeling like in the mud. It doesn't have to feel like you're lazy, you don't feel like doing anything. It doesn't have to be like that. So what we're going to do is apply the growth mindset to this. The growth mindset. And if you're seeing this might be backwards, but this says growth mindset. And so what we're going to do with the growth mindset is apply this to our thinking of these cycles. And so what I mean by that is when we are in a rut, when we are in this low vibrational state, right, what do? What do we usually do as people who are just struggling, we're trying to get better, you know what I mean, like things are just negative, you don't really feel good about yourself. What do we do when we're here? We mostly cope a lot, we go on our phones, like we're doing the bare minimum. And that's what we do when we're down here. Everything sucks. Like, it's just like we're all in the mud. Like no one understands. And like we've all been there. Like, I'm sure a lot of you have felt like this moment before. But I was in a rut like recently, and what I've said to myself, because I was reading a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck, and it recently talked about like the growth mindset. And so when I was in this rut, the things that came to my mind was, what am I missing? Why am I here? And how can I move forward? Because there's a reason I'm here. There's a reason I'm in this little rut. What must come up must come down. So regardless, those big highs, those big moments of like progress, those big moments of achieving things, it must come down, right? It must come down with how your high was. But here's my theory, right? When we are down here, when we're up here, we're always trying to learn something. Because I have this idea in my head, right, that, okay, now I gotta erase all this, so give me a minute. Alright, so also, please bear with me, I'm getting to the point of this video. So as I said before, we're trying to learn from these experiences. Those ruts that you're in and those peaks that you're in, they're both good regardless, because what? You're moving forward. It's not about being in a rut or being in the peak, it's about moving forward in the direction that you want to go. For example, here's how I think about it, right? When we have this high peak, right, we think, okay, when we have a high peak, it must come with a low low, right? Like a low in equal proportion to that. But here's my theory, right? If we are in this rut now and we think, okay, what am I missing? How can I learn from this experience of being in this rut? You can build willpower, you can build discipline when you're in this rut. You pretty much can build discipline points. You can, because, you know, like when we think about discipline, right? We think of it's like, it's motivating to, isn't it kind of like motivating to like think of yourself as disciplined? So it doesn't really count. Like when you're sitting there thinking like, oh yeah, I want to be disciplined. Like you're motivated to be disciplined, but discipline is not about being motivated. It's about doing the thing that you don't even want to do. So when you're motivated to do the thing that you don't want to do, you're not disciplined at all. You're just motivated. And so when you're down here, right, we have to pretty much learn about it. We have to learn why we're here and how we can move forward. Because some people they would lose the rut. They would either win or lose. Right? When you're in this rut, the choices are to either win it or lose it. And so what would happen if you lose at a rut? So what will happen is, here's my theory, right? When you're in this rut and you kind of don't understand the lesson of you being in the rut, you don't understand why you're there, and you just kind of are a feather in the wind, what will happen is, what will follow is not a high peak proportional to that, but a low high, which is not as high as this one, but can only go so high because you didn't learn anything from here. So that's why people think, okay, like what must come up must come down, right, in equal proportion. But here's what I think, right? If you learn why you're in the rut and you learn how to get out of it, and you build discipline, like you build the willpower, you understand why you're there and how to get out of it. What will come from, if you win the rut, this is losing the rut. But if you win the rut, you get a high, right? You get a high from that. And then once we're at the peak, like you can't just sit there and be like, okay, now I'm at the peak, now I must prepare for the low. No, you must win the high. You're supposed to win up here now. Win and learn and win the situation. When you're at this peak, you have to learn how to maintain it, or learn how did I get here and how can I even go even farther? And so what follows this, you might think if you lose the win, if you lose the peak, you're going to have a low, which pretty much like it will go low as this, right? You'll go lower than this. But if you win it, what will happen is you have a high low. So it's bigger than this low, but you got better, right? You simply just got better by winning and learning why you're up here. So you went from here to here. So pretty much your new direction is going up diagonally, if that makes sense. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to bring this example of being a YouTuber. So when we have highs and lows as a YouTuber, what it really looks like is you get a high of, okay, let's just call it subs, right? Subscribers. So every day on the analytics on YouTube, you get like a number of how many subscribers you got that day. And so as a YouTuber, okay, like maybe you're gaining 50 subs a day, right? At your peak, but your low is maybe 10 subscribers. And so in the baseline, it's like either 30 or something. And so when we're at our peak of, okay, we're gaining high subscribers, and our lowest of, okay, we're not gaining as many subscribers, we have to, in order to win this and this, we have to learn why we're there. So we have to learn what happened and why we were down to 10. So we have to be like, okay, what is the reason that I'm at 10 subscribers? Or what in my videos, like what is like my content looking like? So you have to really question the things that you're doing. For example, this can apply to reading as well. Let's say you're not really motivated when you're at your peak of learning, when you're at your peak of like reading books, you read like, okay, maybe you read like 3 chapters a day, but the lowest is maybe reading like 5 pages. And this is in the middle, it's like reading, okay, 1 chapter, right? Whatever. So what we have to do is read, okay, why don't I feel like reading? You have to learn from these experiences, okay, why do I feel like doing it now and I don't feel like doing it then? And from there, you apply the growth mindset to these cycles and these ruts. And what will happen is, okay, you understand why you fell here, so you have a new high. And once you learn how to get here, you have a lower high, and then you got better. So is that making sense, right? And so what will happen over time is, I'll show you. Let me first erase all this. So if you've ever heard of the compound effect, what I just showed you, if you apply the compound effect over time, over like years or decades, what will happen is it'll be 2 types of people, right? A and then B. So what A does is he applies the growth mindset, and B applies the fixed mindset. So A will either go 2 places. A will go 1 place if he applies the growth mindset. He'll go like this, right? You've seen this before when it's pretty much going up, right? You're getting better. But for the B guy, there's 2 places he could go. He could either be the same, right? Or he can go lower. He doesn't win any of the highs and the lows, and what happens is his baseline drops because of that, because he's not learning, he's not understanding why he's falling down. He has to sit down with himself and understand, okay, what's happening? Why am I falling down? Or he can go and just be stagnant. This is even, I feel like this is even worse, because at least here, like, you kind of know, like, okay, I'm going downwards and you'll hit a rock bottom eventually. You're going to hit rock bottom. But this guy, like, he's so stagnant that he's like almost like suffocating. This is like, I would rather be here than here, because when you're in here, it's just mediocrity, it's just normalcy, it's just complacency. None of it just doesn't feel good, because you're not getting better, and you're not, like, you don't feel positive emotions or negative emotions. You're just the same. And I feel like that leads to like insanity. And so pretty much over time, right? Let's just say this is 5 years of winning, etc. But this is kind of unrealistic. What it will actually look like for A is, okay, he'll get better, then he'll have a low. He'll get better, then he'll have a low. But he still got better. It'll mostly be like this, instead of just, okay, you're always winning the lose. Because sometimes you will lose the ruts. You will lose the highs. But it's all a matter of applying the growth mindset, applying, okay, how can I learn from every single opportunity? As a player in the game of life, you have to always look at these opportunities like a thing to win. Like, always try to win and level up. Person A knows how to level up. He might understand that, okay, failure is meant to be there. These cycles that I'm in, instead of trying to go against the cycles of life and nature, he uses the system to his advantage. He learns every single time, okay, as the player, he logs in and understands the cycles of the game. He understands the algorithm. He understands everything. And what he does is he uses that to his advantage. In order to level up and get better, the player, he wins the highs and wins the lows constantly. But the drifter, the person who's just drifting through life, you're either going to be either in this spot or this spot. And I'm telling you right now, even if you were in this spot, this is better because eventually you're gonna get sick of like the dissatisfaction of just getting worse and worse and worse. You'll eventually crack, and you'll eventually just want to skyrocket your productivity and get better. But the real drifters, the people who are just mindless feathers in the wind, they're here. Like they don't like their highs are the weekends and their lows are like during the week. And eventually, like, down the road, like they're just gonna get nowhere. They're just gonna be mediocre. They didn't get better. They haven't read a book. They're still lazy. They doom scroll on their phone. Their phone watch hours are like 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours plus. But the player out here, he understands that, okay, if I just learn from every single one of these opportunities, I can get better. I can actually understand that life runs in cycles, and if I just run with the cycles, being in a rut is good and being at a peak is good. But if I learn why I'm in each situation and move forward, I can create new highs for myself and I can just keep leveling up. So use the same methodology to your self-improvement, to anything. So it really is all about learning and understanding there's opportunities in every single bad and good thing that comes your way. Being in a rut is a good thing because when you're there, it's the way that you look at it is how you can move forward. When you don't feel like doing anything, if there's something like you feel like there's something missing about you, like you feel like, okay, like nothing is going, like things just feel so frictionful. They feel full of friction. It feels like I'm walking through muddy water. Like I'm so lazy. My phone seems really addictive. And I understand that in those moments you might not think about, okay, learning and growing from the opportunity because the dissatisfaction, the negative feeling is like masking the opportunity for you to grow. I understand that totally. So just keep this in mind when you're in a rut, that there's something that you're missing. There's something that you can use to get better. There's something that you have to learn in order to get out of there, in order to reach new highs and reach new high lows, because the lows are pretty good. Like you cannot escape them. And people have this like ideology where it's like, okay, in a rut, once I get out of this rut, my life is just going to be like this. It's really unrealistic. And when you have expectations like this and then you all of a sudden you dip down, that trust in yourself is going to be lost. So you have to expect these ruts and these opportunities of negative emotions or in high emotions, like to move forward. There's also this other method that I'm going to show you to kind of get better, right? Instead of always being in a rut and always playing with these cycles, you probably wonder, okay, like when can I just be at peace? When can I just be happy? And my saying to you is, why are you so worried about being happy? Because we saw the point. We saw B, the guy B. Is this happiness? Like, is this just being stagnant? When you reach your high, when you reach this level of success, right? When you reach this level of point A, right? You think like, okay, once I get better, once I do all the work, right? My life is just gonna be like this. Peace. But I think honestly, like, we don't want to be stagnant. We don't want to be up here. We don't want to be this like straight mundane line, because it's more like a drifter, right? Even if you're just like this, you're like up and then down and then up and then maybe stagnate a little bit and then you go up. This is more realistic because you see more troughs, you see more highs and lows, etc. So play around with the highs and lows and understand that you can get better in every single opportunity. Don't forget that as a player, when you log into the game of life, use the system to your advantage. Now in the next section, I'm going to explain the quest that I'm going to give you to understand this even better. Now my friend, we are in the quest section of the video. And so what I'm going to do for you is, now since you watched the whole video, take out a piece of paper, maybe pause the video if you want, take out a piece of paper, get out a pen, and write down if you're in a rut, if you're in a high peak, and just, if you sit down with yourself and ask yourself on that piece of paper, what am I here to learn? Whatever situation, even if you're stagnant, even if you're in this place of like mediocrity, where do you want to go? Where do you want to ask yourself these questions? Because you don't realize it, but what you ask, you shall receive to yourself. What you seek, you will find. It's like, have you ever heard of the perception of, okay, a negative person, all he sees is negativity, and a positive person, all he sees is positivity? It's the same way with that. When you want to find an answer inside your mind, inside your psyche, you have to ask your psyche, because your subconscious is 90% of your, I think it's either 90 or 95% of your brain. It's one of those numbers. And we can only process like 5 to 10% of our whole brain. Like, that's how much information that we're conscious of. So when you ask this mind of yours, okay, give me the answer to, or not just give me the answer, but what am I missing? And the other day I sat down with myself and I was just pissed off, honestly. I was just like, okay, you haven't been doing that much. Like, I know you can do better. So what am I missing? Like, I'm in this rut now. And you guys really sit down with a piece of paper and have a conversation with yourself. Be like, what are the stupid things I'm doing? What are the things that are keeping me back? The things that are holding me back from this rut, from reaching my new highs? What is the thing I have to learn here in order to get better? You have to apply the growth mindset to every single opportunity that you have. And this might take some time. This might take weeks, months, or years to actually understand. But once you understand this, you can kind of, like, you won't even be in a rut anymore, because it will just feel like you're in a high. Like, because like I said, like, this rut, you will never go below this rut anymore. And sometimes you might even go below this rut, right? But you can get better. And the high is just constantly just doing that, making progress. It's more realistic to have like big highs and big lows, and then it's more like irregular. But down the road, 5-10 years from now, you're going to be just going up. You're going to be just getting better. And so sit down with a piece of paper with yourself and ask yourself, what stupid things are holding me back from achieving my potential, from reaching a new high? What is that thing that is keeping me from there? And once you realize it, once you sit down and really ask yourself, you immediately get rid of that thing. Whether that be, okay, maybe your screen time is really high. Or maybe that video game that is just really good, maybe delete it off your console, your PC. Maybe it's that toxic girlfriend that you have. Maybe it's that toxic friend that you have that's holding you back. It's always judging you. Maybe get rid of them. Maybe change your environment, clean your room. There's a lot of practical things that you can put in place in order to reach a new high, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you keep a toxic friend in your life, you will also be a toxic friend to yourself. If that kind of makes sense, how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you keep toxic people in your life, you will also keep toxic thoughts. So you really are the controller of your mind, so you can see life in this frame of leveling up the levels. Like, it really is like a video game. It's all about learning and understand the processes of life. Life is not about being happy. It's not about being peaceful and stagnant and complacent and just being. It's about experiencing and leveling up and getting better, being in those ruts, being in those states of negative emotions, because with those negative emotions, once you learn the lesson, you will reach new highs, and your low won't be as low as the low before. So my friend, when you're going out and leveling up, look at these troughs and these peaks as levels. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. You're leveling up as you're going through this, and you're getting better. Even if you fail a level, right? You go up, you go down. Like, even if you fail a level, it's okay, because you just redo it. I'm sure you've played a video game before. You've played something and like you didn't beat the level, so you redid it again. Do that same thing and apply that same methodology with your life. Instead of being a victim to the ruts that we're in these negative emotions, use it to your advantage. Take that opportunity to soak up discipline, to soak up willpower, to soak up who you truly are. Because in those ruts are where the real lessons are learned. Not when those highs, not when you're at your peak, but when you're at the lowest low. Because to be honest, I know Sam Evans says that you are not the highest version of yourself. So you are the lowest version of yourself that you accept. So you're pretty much the lowest version of yourself, is who you truly are. So increase the lowest version of yourself by leveling up, being in those ruts and soaking up the XP, the points, the lessons that you are learning in there. There's opportunity in everything. And so with this video, I hope to help you whenever that you are in this state of confusion, this state of, okay, I'm not getting better, why? Sit down with a piece of paper, right? Write down, what are the stupid things I'm doing? What are the things that are holding me back? And understand how you can move forward, because if you want to solve a problem, when you label something as a problem, your brain will solve it, because your brain is a problem-solving mechanism. It's designed to solve problems. So give your brain this problem and really focus on it. When you focus on a single point, you will find the answer. Trust me. And so with that too, I have a free Discord that you can join. It's linked in the description. It's called The Guild. We have a little over 400 members, and we have some new updates coming soon, and I'd love to have you in there. And so with that, continue your journey and keep moving forward.